Well, good evening, Blue Demons. How's everybody doing tonight? As Dr. Pressler and Mr. Shantz talked about, I'm from Positive Coaching Alliance, and I'm a high school coach myself. I've been a high school athletic director in the past. And what I want to talk about tonight, and I loved walking in here, and I talked to Dr. Pressler about it. I loved walking in here and seeing the flags because that ties Maine East to who we are and who we've been for years and our traditions. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Our culture that's special and wonderful and why it's great to be specifically here at Maine East and how we build that culture. And quite honestly, some of the danger spots that might detract from the great things in our culture here at East as Blue Demons. And so what I want to really ask you to do is break out of your shell a little bit, and I want to talk to you a little bit, but I want you to talk back a little bit as well, because I want to hear what you think, and I want your classmates and your coaches, I want your athletes to hear what you think. So when I ask you stuff, feel free to speak up, and it's not a matter of right or wrong. I want to have a conversation. Obviously, it's sort of a big room. It's an auditorium, so it's not like we're right face to face, but I want to hear what you think. So we are going to talk today a little bit about hazing and bullying. It's not the only thing we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the things that make our programs here at East great, that make them special, and how we build the great culture that we have, and how we do it with a purpose. But I'm going to start out talking a little bit about hazing. So if I go to my first slide, I would look at, we're going to define what we mean by hazing, because I think sometimes that can actually be a point of confusion. What actually is hazing? And I want to get your thoughts on that. And then not to say one thing's right or one thing's wrong, but I want to look at the actual definition of it too and have your ideas on, well, what would fit that definition. Maybe some of the things that we already do that people would worry about aren't hazing or are hazing. We'll look at those things. And if you have questions, let's talk about it. We're going to look at how to recognize hazing. We're going to look at alternatives to hazing, how we really build something else in place of some bad things that might happen, or make sure that bad things don't happen if they're not, which is awesome too. We're going to look specifically at making your team better, helping those football players win, helping those soccer players win, helping those swimmers win. By creating, you guys are awesome, by creating a team culture that supports that winning, that supports, hey, I would rather be here at Maine East playing football, playing soccer, swimming, doing gymnastics, dancing, than anywhere else. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about making yourself better as an athlete with what we call our triple impact competitor model. And I will explain that to you as we move on a little bit here. So if we jump ahead right here a second, I want to ask you, what does hazing in sports mean? So I really want to ask you. It's not some trick question. It's not, hey, you're wrong or you're right, but I want to get a sense from you. Is there anybody out there? I know I'm not supposed to come down. I'm going to come down anyway. Is there anybody out there who could give me a little bit of a definition of their own? I got one of my football guys over here, his hand shot up. All right. What's your name, young man? What's your name? John. So wait, he's a cheerleader? Sorry. All right. John, what would you say hazing is, John?
Inappropriate behavior between athletes or coaches.
All right. Inappropriate behavior. That's a fantastic answer, John. Inappropriate behavior between athletes. And unfortunately, and John points out something that, look, this is hard for us. This is difficult, and let's be honest. We all, whether we're athletes and student athletes, or whether we're the adults in the situation, coaches, parents, administrators, teachers, we're all expected to exhibit appropriate behavior. So I'm glad that John said that the way he did. Any other things you'd want to add to what hazing is, how you would define hazing? I would agree it's inappropriate behavior. Is it any specific kind of inappropriate behavior? Any other thoughts on it? She wants to say something, or you wanted to say something? Okay. Young man, what's your name, please? Go ahead, stand up. Come on, get up here. Come on, quick. There you go. What's your name? Nico, what would you say would you add to that? Bullying. So it is similar, and we're going to, thank you, Nico. It is similar It is similar to bullying, and we're going to talk, and thank you for saying that, Nico, because we're going to talk specifically about some of the similarities between hazing and bullying, and some things, and I think one thing in particular, that are very different. Anybody else with anything to add before I move on their definition for hazing? Young lady, what do you got? No? Okay. All right, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. All right. But here's something interesting. Right below that, it says 79% of NCAA athletes report being hazed initially in high school. 79%. Just under 8 out of 10 athletes in the NCAA report being hazed in some way in high school. That's a number that, for me, if you had asked me a couple years ago, before I understood this a little better, that number would surprise me. Does that surprise anybody? It seems pretty high to me. It really does. And it's a scary, and we're going to talk about why that's so scary, both in terms of for those athletes themselves, but also for the teams and the programs they represent. If we could jump ahead right here. So I want you, and we're going to get a chance, because I know this is, by the way, it is so great in here. It's air conditioning. It feels good. It's tremendous. But I want you to get your blood pumping a little bit, not tons. But what I'm going to do is, after each of these things, I want you to, I'll give you a chance to stand up if you think the thing I read is hazing. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, go after each one. So get ready to stand up if you think the first one is hazing. Pressuring new team members to drink at team initiation events. 1, 2, 3, go. Stand up if you think that's hazing. All right, perfect. Sit down. Good job. All right, they got that one. They get harder. 2. Get ready to stand up if you think posting on social media about a teammate's or teammate's appearance, athleticism, effort, performance. Stand up if you think that's hazing. And coaches, I don't mind if you stand up too. That's all right. I don't want to make you work too hard. Okay. Have a seat. I'm just picking on you, coaches. Just having a little fun. Give me a second. Give me your attention for a second. You guys are awesome. Get ready to stand if you believe the next one's hazing. Requiring freshmen to always carry the equipment. This is a tough one. What do you think? Okay. Sit down. Let me tell you what's interesting from where I stand. Very interesting from where I stand. There were a lot of people that stood up and a lot of people that didn't, and we'll talk about that one. We'll talk specifically about that one. So number 4, get ready to stand up if you think this is hazing. Conducting talent shows among teammates where different grades compete on their own team. Stand up if you think that's hazing. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. All right, we'll talk about that one. Number 5, forcing new players to get a specific haircut. 1, 2, 3, go. Sit down. Football's ready to roll tonight. Football, you ready to get shirts tomorrow? Is that what? Okay. I'm just checking. Just want to see. I'm going to talk a little bit more about football in a minute because that's exciting what they're doing right now. And then the last one, pressuring new players to wear embarrassing clothes around campus. 1, 2, 3, go. All right. Great job. Thank you very much. And I would say that, John and Nico made some great points about hazing being related to bullying and hazing could happen from anybody in the community, maybe not just the players, which is a scary thing for me as an educator and as an adult too. So here's what the definition is in the dictionary. Hazing is the practice of rituals and other activities involving harassment, abuse, or humiliation, and the next part is very, very important, used as a way of initiating a person into a group. So a lot of the things that John and Nico talked about right up in there, that John used the word inappropriate, I believe. And it's abuse, harassment, humiliation. But one of the important things we're going to talk about is a way of initiating people into a group. So I want you to think, and actually if we could go backward one slide. Thank you. Does that change any of your definitions? Is it make you think differently about any of these things? That we're talking about harassment to become part of a group, to be initiated into a group, to start being. What does it take to become a blue demon? What does it take to be a blue demon? Do you have to do something that is difficult or painful for you? So I would say that based on that definition, there's really only one of these that I would say is not hazing. I would say that would be number 4 because everybody's doing it. It's not about getting into the group. It's not about being the youngest player in the group. It's not about being accepted by the group because everybody's doing it. And the hardest one for me and for everybody I've talked to, and I could see it in you guys too, is number 3. And here's what I would say about number 3. And here's what I would like you to think about with number 3. Having just the freshmen do this, first of all, you're getting your youngest guys or your youngest girls. And it's almost a way of saying, if you want to be one of us, if you want to be this is what we had to do as freshmen, so now you have to do it. And that, by its nature, is an imbalance of power. So you're saying, we have more power than you because we're upperclassmen. And so as the freshmen, guess what? You carry the gear off the field. You carry the gear onto the bus. You do this, and that's what you do. So it is a form of saying, hey, you have to do this to be part of our group. If we could jump forward a couple slides here. So we asked you to change your previous answer. Nico, I was really grateful for what Nico said. He talked about bullying. And it is there are a lot of similarities because bullying similarly involves humiliation, it involves meanness, it involves being unkind to somebody, which I know is not a trademark at Maynese. I understand that. And I talked to Dr. Pressler and how proud he is of the way student athletes respond to things at Maynese. And you should talk to him about it because he really is super proud of you, and it was exciting to talk to him about that. And bullying can happen to anyone, though, at any time, as opposed to hazing, which is done to a person or group of people to gain entrance or acceptance. And here's the hard part for me about that. What can get difficult about hazing and what can be very painful is that it seems as though the person being hazed is doing this to achieve something he or she wants. He wants to be part of the football team. She wants to be part of the cheer team. She wants to be part of the dance team. And so it's real easy to look at that young lady or that young man and say, they don't mind. And hey, we all did this. So they want this because they want to be part of that. And what athletes will tell you, we'll look at some pretty high-level athletes talking about this, is they do mind. It was difficult. And a little tip to what's coming up, it made them worse athletes in some ways. So that would be some of the similarities and differences between bullying, which Nico mentioned, and hazing. And those are the tough ones. And we're also going to talk a little bit about that question. Hey, I had to do it as a freshman. It's okay. They made me do this, and so it's just what we do with our freshmen. Bless you. Here's the new part. And there was an example of this when we were looking at which things might or might not be hazing. Social media. Raise your hand if you do not have a single social media account. You don't have Twitter, you don't have Vine, you don't have Facebook. I got a couple, okay. Snapchat. I could list them all day long, but I don't want to speak for Dr. Pressler or for Mr. Shantz, but I would say this. When you're a Blue Demon, you're always a Blue Demon. When you're representing Maine East High School, whether it's here in class, out there on the football field, out in the pool, or on Facebook, you're representing Maine East High School. And so anything you do is part of your experience as a student at this incredible, fantastic school. So I would say that I wouldn't want to see you, or I wouldn't want to see myself or my own son. And my son's a high schooler as well. So it's very personal to me. I wouldn't want to see him or you do anything or say anything that he wouldn't be comfortable saying in front of his grandmother, saying in front of anybody, really, a younger student, somebody who you thought, hey, I want to show how great Maine East really is. Or in front of your coaches. So if you wouldn't say it in front of your coach, in front of your mom, in front of your grandmother, in front of your principal or your athletic director, then it probably isn't the right thing for Facebook or even Snapchat, which we'll talk about, but never goes away either. And the question is, who am I? And what do I want to be known for? How do I want people to see me? So if I'm mean online, people see me as mean in life. And if I'm mean online and people see me as mean in life, now they see me as a representative of Maine East High School. They see me as, hey, Blue Demons are mean in life. And I know they're not. And that's the hard part, because you really are representing the school. And here's the part, believe me or don't, but it's an absolute fact. Everything you put online is public and permanent. say it again, everything you put online is public and permanent. It doesn't go away. You say you took your Facebook page down, I'll take you to your computer lab and show you how to find it. And that's scary stuff. So it's something where, hey, we've all misspoken. We've all said things that we wish we could take back, and here you don't get to take them back. So it's something you want to take real seriously. I know it can be fun. You want to take real seriously before you use this as a medium to do something that you wouldn't want somebody to see. Here's one of the most interesting things, I think. Now it comes down to beating shirts. Does hazing make your team better? And by that I mean in a real simple way. Does it give you a better chance of winning on Friday? Does it give you a better chance of winning a soccer game or a volleyball match? Does it make you better? Any thoughts on that, whether it makes you better? Do you think it makes your team better to have that kind of a tradition? Okay. Well, let's jump one step ahead here and say 71% of students subject to hazing report negative consequences. 71% said it didn't make them better. It didn't make them better at their sport, and it didn't make them better in connecting with their teammates. And so, consequently, it didn't make their team better at doing what they want to do on Friday night or doing what they want to do on Saturday morning, which is to go out and be real competitive against those other great schools. I'll give you an example here from a fantastic athlete.
So I was new to a team, and the team's philosophy every year was to initiate the new members of the team, to make them feel kind of a part of the team. But unfortunately, this was really what we now call hazing. And for as much as I think they thought it was funny, I think for the players who were going through it, it was very uncomfortable, and it didn't make you feel more a part of the team. It made you feel of lesser value. So my experience has taught me that when you have a team and you want to be successful, the greatest way to initiate players is to make them feel welcome, to make them feel that they are necessary to the success of the team, and to have open arms. And so ultimately for me, hazing is something that I am absolutely against.
So there's a top-level athlete. Those of you who got to watch the women's World Cup team win that year, Brandi Chastain was a key part of that, and just one of the great athletes in our country's history, really, talking about it didn't make her better. So now what do we do instead? Let's talk about this tough stuff now, guys, breaking the cycle. I think this is the hardest thing we're going to talk about tonight. They did it to me, Coach. They did it to me when I was a freshman, so I should be able to do it to them. Football, let me ask you an honest question. Do you want to be strong? I would say so. I would say your coaches would support that, probably, right? Are you strong enough? Do you have the moral courage? I know you have courage out on the line on the football field. You have the moral courage to be the one player who says no. That's a tough one. If you see something wrong, do you have the moral courage to be the one player? And then that might not even be enough. Do you have the moral courage not to just be a bystander? So do you have the moral courage to actually say, not only am I not going to be part of this actively, I'm going to actively be somebody who stands and says, no, you know what? This isn't who we are. This isn't who I am as a Blue Demon. This isn't who I am as a young man. This isn't who I am as a person. Can I do that? Do I have that in me to say to the freshman who you see who's being harmed and say, you don't have to do this. This is something this isn't who we are. And then on the more positive, upbeat side, what do we put in its place? And we're going to talk about team culture a little bit and talk about what we put in place of things that might be negative that are actually more powerful, more useful, and actually do help you win. Let's talk Coach Fitz.
When I think about the difficulties that every team has as they welcome new members into their families, one of the big issues that we've seen in college athletics and across the country is the hazing issues. Things that we believe here in Northwestern, number one, is there's a zero tolerance for hazing. There's no reason why to ever have it. I know there's a lot of initiations and traditions and things of that nature, and we had that here back, frankly, when I was a player in some different ways. But, you know, as society's evolved and as we've really thought deep about how we want to welcome our new family members in to our programs and into our organizations, hazing should have nothing to do with it. Instead, how about thinking about, in our context, what we do? Have a big brother program. Have an upperclassman or someone older within the team look after a younger player. Teach them the values. Teach them what it means to be a part of your culture. And give them every opportunity that they have to be successful in their initial stages of being a part of your family. Never forget what it was like to be that young person coming into a new environment. Here at the collegiate level, it's leaving the nest, leaving home, and coming into a new culture that you've never been a part of. You're afraid, you're scared, you have all these different things going through your mind about just how bad it's going to be. Hazing doesn't need to be a part of that issue. Let's turn it around the other way and give them a big brother and give them an opportunity to be successful.
I love that expression, an opportunity to be successful. Any of my football guys want to play Division I someday? There's your Division I coach. There, and he said a couple things that I think are really key that I want to echo back. He talked about not having any tolerance for this. If you get to be a Division I football player at Northwestern University, it means you're a fine football player. You're going to play for a great, tough coach. But it also means that you will not do this, and you will not be a part of Coach Fitz's program if you choose to tear down teammates. And so what he did, and what he talks about in the video, is he put something in his place like we talked about. Our culture is this. We have a Big Brother program. We take those younger players aside, and we match them up with an older, stronger player and say, we're going to give you an opportunity to be successful. And I want you to think back. I want you to think back to the first time when you became a Blue Demon athlete, when you first made a team at Maine East. How did that feel? And it would break my heart to see somebody take that away from you, to see somebody make that something that's negative or bad for you or humiliating for you. So we're going to talk about culture. And Coach used the term culture. Culture is just the way we do things here. And that's why I want to talk about football. I love the football's getting loud. I think it's fun that football's getting loud. But it also says, these are guys who really care about each other, about Maine East, about who they are, and how they come across. And you can hear the bonding in them. You can hear them saying, hey, we're proud of this. That's culture, what's going on right there. I know some of you aren't quite as loud with your teams and that too, and I know you have great cultures too. But that's just an example of something that's a fantastic piece of culture here at Maine East. Go ahead, that's all right. And so I'd ask you, and I'll ask your coaches, what is the culture of your team? And I don't mean just what culture makes your team special? What makes it unique? What makes it different than one of the teams you might play? Anybody have any answers? Something that's really unique about somebody and football? I don't want to rule you out, but I've heard a lot from you. Anybody from some other teams could just shout out a word that would describe their culture on their team. I heard respect. All right, what? Family. Wow, that's a great one. So, what's your sport, young lady? So, Cheer said, hey, we're a family. And I heard respect. That's great stuff. And if you can, and your coaches can define your team by those types of words, by those types of cultures, well, that's something we put in place of some things that could be negative. Let's move ahead one step. And then I'd ask you and your coaches, what are 3 things you want to be known for? And you already answered them. Acting like a family, respect, our enthusiasm, our strength, our pride in our school, our understanding of our history. I was just talking to Coach Shans. Hey, we have an all-state soccer player recently, right? We have an all-state water polo player recently. We should be excited about those people. And I want to be known for being great the right way. So let's talk about culture with Coach Collins for a second, also Northwestern.
Culture within a team, to me, is one of the most important aspects in being successful. And, it can't just come from the coaches. I think the coaches need to be the leaders, and they need to promote the culture. But in order to establish a winning culture and a positive culture, it has to come from within. And so everything we're trying to do here at Northwestern is to instill in our players to a winning, positive, based culture that can help us be successful as we move along. And ultimately, to be successful, the guys on the team need to take ownership of that, and they need to hold each other accountable. And the message can't just come from the coach. And when it comes from the coach and also within the players, that's when you can have a really good team.
That's such a powerful statement. And yeah, you can clap for Coach Collins. And yes, it is your coach's job to some extent to set the tone And your coaches all know that, and your coaches all do that. But your coaches would probably tell you too, they're setting the tone. It doesn't work unless you embrace it, unless you say, this is who we are as Blue Demon Volleyball. This is who we are as Blue Demon Tennis, or whatever your sport is, or whatever your group in the school is. And really, it's true for any group in school, even if it's not a sport. But I love what Coach said about, hey, the coaches are going to set the tone there, but it's really got to come from the athletes. Now let's look at one more of our National Advisory Board members talk about culture.
In our culture, on our team, we have a phrase called Ubuntu. A person is a person through other people. I can't be all I can be unless you are all you can be. That belief system is through our entire team. So I may not be a leader, or a player may not be a leader, but he understands the only way he can achieve what he wants to achieve is he has to make his teammates better, his players better, my coaches better. And that's the Ubuntu philosophy. That is a form of leadership. If Kevin Garnett is out on the floor helping Rajon Rondo with his shooting, Kevin Garnett is being Ubuntu, and that's what we say in our culture.
A friend of mine works for the Celtics. He's on the Celtics coaching staff. And this isn't something that Doc is just saying for this video. This is how things go for, well, now the Clippers, but certainly when Doc was with the Celtics. And I point that out to say this isn't some little kid thing. This isn't something where, hey, this is beneath me and yeah, it's just silly. This is something that big-time professional athletes have to work at every day to really, if you have a great team culture, to keep it. And if you don't have the team culture you want, to build it. And to always be building it. And it's something that it's not a high school thing or a middle school thing or a grade school thing. You're looking at top Division I and a top NBA coach talk about how important this is to make their teams successful. And Coach talked about Ubuntu, and he talked about the idea of this, if we push it one more, to say that I am what I am because of who we all are, which is also a way of saying that if one person in my team is weak or broken or hurt, then my team is weak or broken or hurt. And that's a tough one. But that's what Doc's telling his guys. That's what Doc's talking about with Kevin Garnett and now with his players in LA. And he's saying we need to be this as a group. Last thing I'm going to talk about tonight is what can you do? What 3 things can you actually do? And write them down and talk to your coaches about them and say, hey, what do we want to do? What do we do what is a great culture thing we do here at Maine East Swimming? What's a great culture thing we do with our team? Let me jump ahead 1 second. And then finally, this is going to be the last thing. We talk about making ourselves better, and we talk about being a triple impact competitor. And this is a really powerful concept. First off, and football, did you practice today? Okay. Every guy out there and every swimmer in the pool and every cheerleader in the gym or wherever they were working, I walked past the volleyball practice today and they were working hard. Oh, there you are. I should have been shouting out to you earlier. Sorry about that. Nice job. You look fantastic in the gym. But every one of those individual athletes was working hard to make herself or himself better. And the great ones were doing this. They were focusing on, we'll use Elm to remember what we're going to focus on, but they were focusing on their own effort. Am I working hard today? Am I working hard in this drill? Am I working hard in this moment? Did I win the moment? And they're working on the L, which is learning. Am I getting a little bit better today? Am I improving a skill that I wasn't great at before? Or am I learning a new skill that I always wished I had? And am I assessing myself? Am I really saying, hey, I'm getting better at this, and I know I'm getting better at this, and my coach is pushing me, and that's what I want. And then the M is to really, and this is a tough one, guys, are you processing your mistakes in a way that makes you a better athlete as opposed to a worse athlete? Are your mistakes making you better? Because if you are putting out maximum effort and learning new things, take the mystery right out of it for you. You're going to make some mistakes. And that's a good thing because that's what comes with working hard. And if you're processing that in a way like that, it makes you a better athlete. So that's the root of it. I'm making myself better. And then we talk about making our teammates better and really keeping them full, keeping them excited about what they're doing. Hey, man, you're doing great today. And I heard volleyball cheering each other on when I walked through the gym earlier. Yeah, exactly. And there's There's a ton of real psychological research behind that it takes 5 positive, upbeat comments to 1 negative, critical, or corrective comment to really maintain a relationship and to have your teammates trust you and to have your coaches trust you. And that goes from coach to player, from player to coach, from parent to athlete, and especially from teammate to teammate. So if I get better and my team's not getting better, it might not be enough. So I'm making my teammates better. And we can talk about, and I'm sure your coaches always do talk about ways of not just making you better, but making the people around you better. And then the last one is tough. Bless you. Making the game better. And we'll talk about the word roots to remember things to honor to make the actual game better. First is the rules. At Maine East, we play by the rules. Because winning any other way doesn't feel quite as worth it. So we're going to play by the reasons for the rules, because see what you hit, right, boys? And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, because we want to keep all the doctors up here kind of home on Saturday. We don't want them coming out to your games, right? So there's a reason for the rules, but also just the honor of playing by those rules, because that win is meaningful. The first O in Roots, we used to remember to honor our opponents. And I know that sounds a little crazy sometimes, but think about it. When you look back on your swimming career, your tennis career, your soccer career, whatever sport you play, there we go. I said soccer before. When these guys look back at their soccer career, they're not going to remember. They're not going to remember if there's a 9-0 blowout one way or the other. They're not going to remember the game that wasn't. Hey, we played a team that wasn't very good that day. They're going to remember the game that. Well, did you win by a header the other night? You won by. That's what I thought. Okay, so they're going to remember that game. And what makes that valuable is having a worthy, exceptional opponent. So those great opponents are a gift. They're a gift to us because they give us the great games. They test us and they say, where are we now? Did we learn? Did we work hard? Did we get better? The second O is a tough one too. But I'll be honest with you, if you focus on officials, you're not focusing on your game. If you focus on how the game is being called in those UFC sports, especially when there's a high level of subjectivity, like say pass interference calls, right? You focus on that and you're taking away your own power of, hey, I'm in control of this game, and athletes who feel in control play better. But more than that, also just honor that person and what they're doing for the game. I'm sure Coach Johns will tell you, it's harder and harder to get people to officiate games. It really is, because it's a really rough world out there right now. And those people are giving you a gift by making sure the game is played in a way that you can win in a way that you love and respect. We talked about teammates and never doing anything to be disrespectful of a teammate, to embarrass a teammate, to talk badly about a teammate, to say anything. You know, you come home and mom or dad says, well, geez, that one kid wasn't. No, mom, that's my teammate. I don't say anything bad about my teammates. And we're going to work hard to get better when we're on the field, when we're together as a team. But I don't say bad things about my teammates. And the last one I'll leave you with is the S. And the last thing to honor in the game is the hardest thing, and it's the last thing I'll say. It's yourself. And it goes right back to what I talked about with breaking the cycle, or what Coach Fitz talked about with zero tolerance. And I know what he was talking about was zero tolerance in his program, but the S for you, honoring yourself, means zero tolerance for anything you know is wrong. And that's really hard when everybody else might be going in the wrong direction. And that could be hazing, that could be things going on at the party after the game. If you know it's wrong and you do it anyway, are you honoring yourself, and are you showing the kind of strength that it would take to become a Division I athlete? Are you showing the kind of courage that it would take to really be excited about, hey, I'm my own person. I'm a Maine East Blue Demon, and I'm my own person. I represent myself, my family, my school, and I'm excited about that. Those are the kinds of things that when we talk about it, and all the fun stuff is great, but get to be pretty serious about making us better down the road, making us better people because we were better athletes. And I promise you, from what I've heard tonight, from what I heard Dr. Pressler talk about, from what I heard Coach Johns talk about, you're going to be better people in life for being athletes at Maine East High School. You're going to be better for being a Blue Demon. So one more time, let's get a good go Blue Demons. Guys, good night. Thank you very much.